Hey, greetings everybody, it's Gleekon here again with another episode of Lore of Warcraft. We are currently kind of in a little bit of a period in between novels and book type stuff. On our last episode, we've talked about both the rise of Kel'Thuzad and how the Scourge and the Lich King's power is starting to spread to the Eastern Kingdoms. And then we also talked about Thrall and his history as a Thrall and how he escaped and was helped, much of which is kind of the culmination of that is encapsulated in that Caverns of Time dungeon, which I don't know why I keep forgetting. It's not the Culling of Stratholme, it's the other one. Durnhold Keep, maybe, is the Siege of Durnhold, something. I can't remember. All right, so stay a while and listen to this one. It's called Lore of the Clans. Now, let's read it, and then we'll talk about what I think about this. My dog just loves to start chasing his tail. It's like, what? You're not giving me attention when you make these videos. Let's chase the tail. It's also certain times when I make these videos, there's key times I tend to try to slip one in after dinner. And after the dog eats dinner, that's when he's full of energy. So after he goes outside, he comes back and he's still full of himself a little bit. All right, here we go. Thrall spent time learning the basics of what it meant to be an honorable orc. Most of his race had abandoned their shamanic heritage when they embraced fell magic, but there was one among the Frostwolves who had returned to their roots. The elderly orc Drekthar had rekindled his connection with the elements, and he instructed Thrall in the ways of shamanism. Now, if you don't remember, when we read our Rise of the Horde, Drekthar was a main character in that, and then even when we had the flashbacks, Drekthar is a big part of that. Thrall also learned from Orgrim Doomhammer. Meeting Thrall dredged up painful memories for the former war chief, but it put his heart at ease. Now, if you also remember, Orgrim, we didn't really know where he went, but he had escaped from captivity also. So now they have something in common, that they've both escaped from human captivity. And I think that Thrall honoring his father Durotan and then also honoring Orgrim is how we both get the land Durotar and Orgrimmar. Meeting Thrall dredged up painful memories for the former war chief, but it put his heart at ease. Orgrim had been close friends with Thrall's parents, and he had believed that their son had died alongside them. His survival warmed the older orc's spirit. Orgrim taught Thrall how orcs fought, and more importantly, how they lived. He might not have been raised as an orc, but Thrall's brutal upbringing had given him exactly what the Horde needed: a love of freedom, admiration for the nobility the clans had lost, and the desire to see them all made whole again. Thrall's optimism and resilience reignited Orgrim's hopes of restoring the orcs' pride and honor. He made the young shaman his second-in-command. They joined with Grommash Hellscream and his Warsong clan, and they launched a campaign to free the orc prisoners from their internment camps. I think Grommash eventually becomes Lord of the Horde too. The lethargy that made the orcs submissive began to fade before the raw energy of Thrall's sense of purpose, and with each toppled camp, the new Horde grew bigger and stronger. So this is what's leading up to Warcraft 3 and how there is a Horde, because slowly and systematically, Orgrim and Thrall are freeing the orcs from their camps. Orgrim Doomhammer fell in battle while liberating one of those camps. I didn't realize. And with his last breaths, he declared that Thrall should carry on as the new war chief of the Horde. Thrall took up Doomhammer's eponymous weapon, his armor, and his responsibilities, and he sought to dismantle the entire system of internment in one fell swoop. So this is how Thrall really starts to lead the Horde. But also, I didn't realize that Orgrim, that was how he died. He just died. There's got to be a story there, and we'll talk about that in a second. The Horde marched on Adelis Blackmoor's fortress, Durnhold Keep. Thrall offered to parley peacefully. Adelis responded by executing Taratha Foxton. Enraged, Thrall and the Horde stormed the keep, and in a bloody battle, Thrall personally struck down Adelis. With Durnhold conquered, the administration of the internment camps ended instantly. The new Horde had little trouble liberating the rest of the smaller, more isolated camps across Lordaeron. Thrall did not use his numbers to wage war against Lordaeron itself. Instead, he took his people across the eastern kingdoms in search of a place they could call home. And eventually, you know they've got to make it to Kalimdor. Okay, so we'll look at this picture real quick. That's pretty cool. This is Thrall honors Orgrim Doomhammer at the fallen orcs' funeral pyre. He takes up the Doomhammer. Pretty cool. That's Thrall. He's looking a bit cooler there. And there's the spirit of Orgrim in the background. So, this episode is called Lord of the Clans, and where all of this stuff comes from, yeah, it's a prelude to Warcraft 3. It's a description of, it's starting to explain how the Horde becomes the modern Horde, where we have Durotar and Orgrimmar and Thrall leading it, and they have a sense of honor. But more importantly, I believe what we have just read is the basic premise, the basic storyline. I don't know where the writers of this got from, unless it's in the Blizzard archive somewhere, of a game called Lord of the Clans. So, after Warcraft 2, but before Warcraft 3, there was an adventure game, like a King's Quest style game in development, which is sort of how the last chapter of Warcraft 3 is. It's basically an adventure game. It's my understanding. Again, I've never played Warcraft 3. But I think what we just read, the systematic rise of Thrall to power, the escape, the attack on Durnhold Keep, the one by one the camps being freed, I think that is what is supposed to be occurring during the events of the game, The Lord of the Clans. That game was canceled. It never saw the light of day. But obviously the lore still exists somewhere, and everything that happened in it is supposed to be considered canon. And how do we get that lore? Oh yeah, duh. Not only is it going to be in the, whatever, the Annals of Time, they'd made a novelization of the game as well during the same time period called Lord of the Clans, and that's going to be one of the next things that we read. So we're going to do a couple more episodes of Chronicles here. Then we have a short story. We've got a few chapters of Arthas, but then we're going to read Lord of the Clans. That'll be our next novel that we go. And it'll be our last full novel before we do Warcraft 3. All right, we got another episode in the pipe, 5x5. I thank everybody so much for watching and listening, and I'll see you next time on Lore of Warcraft.